Whenever I think about the concept of God, I enter a totally different frequency. It's akin to the frequency that I tap into when I'm in a mode of channeling, when I'm speaking from the soul, which is essentially about becoming the divine instrument or the conduit for higher consciousness. It's about a state of disassociating from the singularity of your identity, from the I, or from the egoic nature of your being, into the one, into the all, into this space of being irrevocably connected to the absolute, because you start to feel in that space there's no difference between you as a singular entity and everything else in existence. Being in this space of non-duality allows you to access a higher touch point of universal awareness. That touch point is something I like to call universal consciousness. It's a state of you perceiving yourself as no different from anything else in existence. It's a state in which you can perceive all of reality as an emanation of the One, of Source, of the truth that is pervasive in the universe as an amalgamation of all things in existence. Meaning that in that perspective of you being a surrendered observer of reality, you can see yourself as consciousness itself. This perspective is absolutely required, I believe, to see the universe as an expression of God, to see that everything is Source, animating itself in physical form. So this brings us to the point of why is existence necessary? Why do we as small entities or emanations of Source need to be here, as we're providing these lenses for consciousness to experience itself? Which means then that we can also perceive God as the animator of this cosmic production. I want you to zoom all the way out and look at the universe as a symphony, and to see consciousness as the sea of awareness that allows for all things that have ever been experienced and ever will be experienced. What we can tap into in this higher dimensional realm is the subtlety, which is all energetic potentiality. It's where everything arises from as an idea, as unmanifested matter that sits in the ether of creation and that ever will become that idea made manifest. When we tap into the field of intelligence, the quantum field, if you will, it's also known as the Dirac sea, or as the etheric space, or as the 0-point field. What we're tapping into is essentially God's aura. We're tapping into a space in which energy is existent in a space of potentiality. Everything is possible in this higher dimensional realm. And the way that you can read this energy is as everything that you could possibly want to express already being expressed in this higher dimensional matrix. In that space, you experience total unity, total continuity, and coherence. So when you tap into this energy of the all and the higher dimensional bank of possibilities, what you as a singular being start to experience is unconditional love. Simply by choosing to connect to the field, you are choosing to embody a state of heart-mind coherence. This means merging the energy along your own axis of consciousness in order to tap into these higher faculties of awareness, where your higher self is actually experiencing the multidimensional reality of you as a soul expressed across multiple dimensions of this universal matrix. The matrix can be seen as an accordion spanning multiple dimensions in order for consciousness to be having this multifaceted experience. It's like multiple levels of a game, or a live simulation in which you can have different forms of experiential value come in due to the different aspects of experience playing out across these dimensional layers. Imagine that you as a soul are existent simultaneously in multiple dimensional realms. What you're experiencing right now is just an aspect of your consciousness, collapsing possibilities in this now moment, in this lower dimensional matrix, where you're bound by time and space, where you experience energy as an output of what you're currently focused on, what you're currently thinking about, which is why it's so easy to find yourself feeling disconnected from Source, because the very nature of having a lower dimensional identity means that you're constricted by the matrix constructs. You're confined by what is. You're bound by the things that your mind tells you are the parameters of reality. This includes everything that has been established as a solid fixed value across your own timeline of your life. This includes everything in the past that you consider to be conditioning, trauma, everything that has comprised your current identity, and the I of your being. If you are fixated to all of these different events that have scripted your program in the now, you cannot see yourself as a vessel of consciousness. You cannot see that you're as one with Source, because you are delusional and choosing to bind yourself to the programming of the mind, to the illusion that you are just this one fractal of the one, having a different experience that is limited in nature. Because you are an energy source, imbued in physical form, whatever you choose to prescribe to your field of consciousness will end up becoming the emanation of your reality. Whatever you choose to prescribe to your mind is what will end up scripting the entirety of your life. And this is exactly how source consciousness operates. When you choose to perceive reality in a certain way, you're creating that hologram of your reality by choosing to encode the parameters of the hologram within the confines of your own mind. You can think of both your mind and your brain, and universe and source as a whole as operating as part of one cosmic hologram, where everything is actually connected, but can be seen as a disparate part of the whole when you choose to perceive it as separate. Now, this is a paradox. You maybe even need to rewind what I just said. To consider that everything is a hologram, you need to perceive how everything is actually interconnected in nature. And this can be one of the most mind-boggling and difficult things for an egoic identity to perceive, because through the lens of your ego, of course, everything is separate. Everything is known to you from an early age as some separate extension of the world around you. And you start to perceive yourself through the process of individuation as a separate entity in this cosmic game. Your relationship with God actually reveals a lot about your relationship with yourself. Because if you think that God is an unhappy ruler of the cosmic order, and that he or it exists at the top of the hierarchy of universal command, you will start to fear this concept of source. You will feel that God is an oppressor, a cruel ruler, the creator of destiny, or the creator of all of these things that you want to push away from yourself and your reality. This is simply because you view God as something separate and as some being or some entity in control of the all. For as long as you maintain this belief that God is separate from you, you create oppression in your reality by creating separation. This is not to say that the concept of God is something that all of us embody, for nobody in a human body will ever be able to fully encompass the qualities of God. What I'm saying is that all of us have a touch point to source within our own consciousness, and that is the understanding that through our empathy, through our heart's consciousness, through the merging of all of these aspects of our own psyche, through the different polarities such as the masculine and feminine energies, such as the elements of the fire, the earth, the water, and the air that are pervasive in our lives, we can understand all of the qualities of source consciousness, which are expressing itself through the individuation of human consciousness. If you were to arrange a sum total of all of these different ingredients, you would start to see that this is the palette of source consciousness expressing itself through every different human being, human experience, human emotion, through every difficult behavioral trait, traumatic experience. Every beautiful trait that you espouse and also every dark quality is in some way representing separation from that one. And all of these colors are brought to life through the understanding that Source is using the range of experiences to better know itself. The challenge throughout human civilization and experience has been that God is used to separate. As a concept, God is something so powerful that it is allowed for the creation of empires and likewise the destruction of human civilizations. It leads to warfare, it leads to corruption, it leads to the disease of the mind that makes people wage war against each other and oppress each other simply because they fear or rebel against each other's gods. Now, relative to what I just described as the concept of God being the one, being the source, being the non-dual creator, or the ground of all being, which is purely non-dual in nature, how is it that we could get to such a low point in human awareness to where we either completely reject the notion of God or use it to wage opposition against each other. How could we get to such a devastating point in human consciousness, though we consider ourselves to be such evolved, advanced beings, that we completely separate ourselves to the point of rendering source consciousness a useless concept in the collective mind? Source consciousness, in my opinion, is the unifying chord. For if we see that the universe is a holographic creation, then we can see that source is nestled within every point of the matrix. Such is the nature of the holographic principle. Every single point within the matrix contains within it the information matrix connecting to everything else in the universe. This means that you are equally connected to everything else in existence as your friend, your neighbor, your pet, and a random person across the other side of the planet that has no relation to you. When we start to grasp this notion of universal interconnectivity, we can start to feel that separation and everything that goes along with it is that sin. That God, in and of itself, is not perpetuating, is not punishing, is not oppressing to create that sin within us. This sin of separation is something that the human mind creates through egoic distortion. This sin is created when man decides to outweigh the concept of the all. When man-godhood outweighs the power of God-manhood. Or when we try to become gods by choosing to render our power as more advanced, as more powerful than the concept of the one. The return to God-manhood, or essentially the state of choosing to see that Source is nestled within our own souls and is calling us to connect more deeply to oneness in every expression of itself in our lives, is the understanding that love is the answer. That choosing to see yourself as a disparate, useless particle in the universe only renders more disregard for everything else in existence. It means that you choose not to see that you chose to come here as part of the universe's perpetual expansion. And instead you choose to give up your power and to merge your consciousness with some other collective egregore, program, or matrix condition that makes you feel powerless. Now, in a way, this is also source consciousness enacting itself. As you choose to trade your power, your individual will, and your sense of purpose for something else. Energy is always transitioning. You're always drifting from one state of creation into another. And every action in your life is in some way an exchange of energy. You're choosing to play this game of life by choosing to manipulate your energy in different ways. And this is giving life to the source within you. You can either choose to dim the light of your soul, which is expressing itself in this physical form, or you can choose to fully engage it. You can choose to give yourself the power to become the creator in your reality, in which case you will start to connect to the field which will give you the input to allow consciousness to expand itself more through you, through every output of your physical life, through the kindness you share, through the love you give, through the awareness you share, through the learning you allow yourself to receive as a gift of the universe, when you just choose to open up your channel and receive divine clarity through your own openness and receptivity. This is what is allowing Source to expand. It's what's allowing you to see that you are indeed a useful ingredient of universal oneness. And that the more people who wake up to this reality of oneness, the more growth will actually be achieved on a collective level. Such is the nature of the collective wake-up call. What religion has been successful with for millennia is creating a state in which man is a subordinate of God, in which man fears Source, fears the power of the Absolute over him, in which mankind fears God because he fears creating some sinful action which will lead God to be against him. But what if we were to redefine this entire image of God as a harsh creator, as a harsh punisher, to simply a mirror of our own consciousness? If God is a mirror, and if Source is simply the bank of universal awareness that allows for perpetual expansion, then whatever it is that you are choosing to expand in the energetic realm within your own reality will lead to more expansion for you and for the collective. Everything that ends up being energetically expressed will be amplified. If there is discontinuity in your life, realize that God is not punishing you Source is never against you, because it never can be. As part of the energetic mirroring property of consciousness, you're going to be receiving the output and reflection of whatever it is that you're currently housing. If there's something deeply suppressed within you, God will be punishing you by simply karmically returning that suppressed energy for you to recognize who you really are at your core. If there's something within you that you're choosing to evade, run away from, or hide from, know that eventually you will feel that God or some higher power is leading to your awareness of that particular thing. And this is never done as a punishment. This is what the mind entertains as the reason for why certain bad things happen to us in our lives. But eventually, God will reveal itself as simply that universal intentionality, as that reason for all things in existence, which maybe is connected to your higher self's intention for your experience of being. Maybe what you consider God is actually your higher self enacting meaning into your experience. Maybe the reason why you present God as something separate from you is because you don't want to take responsibility for the creation of your own reality. And you don't want to see how you are a more advanced soul choosing to have this lower dimensional experience in order to realize yourself and all the intricacies of what your mind has been creating over many incarnations in order to better realize the purpose of the simulation. God is simply allowing for all of these meaningful experiences to be had. It is not a creator necessarily, but the source of creation itself. It is the reason behind everything, the reason behind you and I, and behind all things. It is allowing us to use the brushstrokes of consciousness to paint this masterpiece of our reality. And however you choose to relate to the concept of source will end up creating the substance of your reality. So choose to be the creator. Choose to see that love and universal consciousness will grant you the key to be understanding how more meaning can enter your reality when you choose to embody the authentic, pure, and connected qualities of consciousness. These qualities teach us to transcend the self and to become as one with the zero-point field, to merge with Source's loving aura and to understand that everything had to be disconnected for us to eventually realize how to fall in love with the journey back home to the One.